As the deadline approaches to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, the Caribbean must ask itself, is tourism truly sustainable? This question took center stage as the topic of the first keynote presentations given at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank's Growth and Resilience Dialogue. The World Bank and the Caribbean Tourism Organization, the CTO, presented each of their perspectives on the matter.
By 2010, some people started looking at the cost side of it. IMF has done a paper, not us, IMF, where they looked at the tax incentives, and they accounted that the tax incentives were accounting for, 4.4 to 7% of GDP in foregone revenue. Now, maybe it was really worthwhile because it created jobs, it created economic contribution, but maybe it wasn't. But it was a question. And at the same time, the environmental impacts started to be acknowledged. And of course, the climate change and all the impacts that it brings with it. And so by the 2020s where we are, we recognize the costs, we recognize the risks of climate change, then COVID hit. That was a big blow. Some thought tourism will never come back.
Milenko presented highlights of the World Bank's recently released report, Rethinking Caribbean Tourism, Strategies for a Sustainable Future, where policy recommendations were made to Caribbean economies as to how to pivot from a tourism-dependent nation to more sustainably developing nations. On the other hand, Donna Regis Prosper, the CEO of the CTO, invited the youth to become leaders in what she described as the most resilient industry in the region.
Tourism is a resilient industry. Yes, many may describe the industry as fickle or sensitive to internal shocks, and I don't dispute that at all. Like any industry, tourism can be impacted by global crisis as we see today. But let me make one thing clear. Tourism is also one of the most resilient industries in the world. Think back to the recovery from the pandemic. The Caribbean was among the first regions to rebound, and we all did it together.
It stands to reason, however, that for its own sake, the leading industry would be the most resilient. The World Bank's recommendation to reassess cruise passenger and environmental fees was welcomed by the Director General of the OECS, Dr. Didacus Jules.
I'd like to thank Natalia for this presentation, because I find a lot of the discourse on tourism tends to center on platitude. You know, we say certain general truths about tourism, but what is needed is really a data-driven, deep and critical analysis. Looking at how tourism has evolved, especially in the last few years, and the exponential increase in cruise tourism, I'm very worried, and I'm speaking personally, not in my official capacity, but I'm very worried about the impact of that on the Caribbean.
The report highlighted many very high priority areas for action, including planning, zoning and land usage, labor market and social skills, licensing, registration, regulation and safety, and energy, water and waste policy. With 2030 being the deadline for us to report on our actions to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, it is not enough to only give consideration to a more sustainable future. For the future to be sustainable, present development must not compromise the future generations' ability to meet their own needs. The action, therefore, must start immediately. And for Choice News Now, I am Cianna Dalsan.